The transport ship touched down on Prime with barely a whisper, pressed his face against the viewing port, watching the floating gardens drift past in the low gravity. Everything here looked soft, delicate. The buildings seemed to be made of glass and light, nothing like the reinforced concrete and steel of Earth's cities. He was the first human to be accepted into the Galactic Defense Academy. His test scores had been too high to ignore, even though his application had caused 3 months of debate among the council. The airlock opened with a hiss, stepped out, his boots making a heavy thunk on the platform. Around him, other new cadets floated more than walked, their bodies adapted to worlds where gravity was a gentle suggestion rather than a constant force. A tall, thin creature with 4 arms approached him. Its skin was pale blue and seemed almost transparent. "Cadet," it said, checking a data pad. Its voice trembled slightly. "Yes, sir," replied, standing straight. "I am instructor, follow me. Try not to, just follow me." The instructor turned and glided away, moving through the low gravity with practiced ease. Followed, each step too heavy, too loud. Other cadets stopped and stared. Some backed away. He heard whispers in languages he didn't understand, but he caught one word repeated over and over. The dormitory was a curved building with transparent walls showing the gardens outside. Led him to a room on the 3rd level. "This is your quarters. Your roommate is already inside." Opened the door. The room was large and airy, with 2 sleeping platforms that floated a few inches off the ground. A small creature sat on one platform, looking like a praying mantis made of silver metal. It had large compound eyes that reflected its image 1,000 times. "Hello," said, trying to smile. "I'm." The creature's antennae quivered. It made a clicking sound, and a translator device on its chest spoke. "I am of the Hive Worlds. I have already submitted a transfer request." O set down his bag. "Did I do something wrong?" "You are from a Class 12. Your presence here violates 300 years of safety protocols." Eyes never blinked. "I will not stay in a room with a predator species." Before could respond, gathered its belongings and left, moving quickly on 6 thin legs. Sat on the remaining sleep platform. It dipped under his weight, clearly not designed for someone from a high-gravity world. He sighed and looked out the window at the peaceful gardens below. His communication device buzzed. A message from another human cadet. "They put me in the medical division. You." He typed back, "Combat training, you okay?" "Scared, everyone stares, you." "Same, will make it work." Another message came from, "They separated us on purpose. Good luck, brother." The next morning, reported to the training grounds. Commandant stood before a group of 200 cadets from 50 different species. Most of them looked nothing like humans. Some had too many limbs, others had none. Some breathed different air and stayed in sealed suits. "Welcome to the Galactic Defense Academy," announced, his voice amplified across the field. "You are the best of your worlds. Here, you will become something greater." His 4 eyes scanned the crowd and stopped on, "We have an unusual situation this year. For the first time, we have accepted a cadet from Earth, a Class 12. This decision was not made lightly." Every cadet turned to look at. He felt the weight of their stares. "As such," continued, "we will be monitoring this experiment closely. Should any safety concerns arise, the decision will be reconsidered." The first training exercise was an obstacle course. Watched as other cadets struggled through walls that required climbing, gaps that needed jumping, and barriers that demanded crawling underneath. Most cadets wore to help with the gravity and physical demands. They took an average of 40 minutes to complete the course. When's turn came, he wore only his standard uniform. The other cadets watched from a safe distance. The whistle blew. Ran. In the low gravity of Prime, each step carried him twice as far as normal. He reached the first wall, jumped, and cleared it in one leap. The gap that others struggled to cross took him a single bound. The crawling section was easy. He'd done worse during childhood survival training in the mountains back home. He crossed the finish line in 18 minutes. The watching cadets were silent, checked his timer 3 times as if it must be broken. "That's acceptable," finally said, "but this was a basic course. The real challenges come later." Over the next week, attended classes on galactic law, stellar navigation, and combat theory. In every class, he sat alone. When he entered the cafeteria, conversation stopped. When he tried to join study groups, they disbanded. Only and spoke to him, and they were kept busy in their own divisions. One evening, summoned him to the administrative tower. The commandant's office overlooked the entire academy, gardens stretching to the horizon. Cadet said, not offering him a seat, "Your performance has been extraordinary, too extraordinary." "I'm just doing my best, sir." "That is the problem." Pulled up holographic displays showing test results. "You score higher than cadets who have trained their entire lives. You complete physical trials that should be impossible for someone without mechanical assistance. You require less sleep, less food, and less recovery time than any species we have on record." "Earth is a tough world," said simply. "It makes tough people." "Or dangerous ones." Eyes narrowed. "The final examination for first-year cadets is a survival trial on our training moon, 7. It is designed for teams of 4. "I'll form a team, sir." "You will not. No one will partner with you. I have received 47 requests from cadets asking not to be assigned with you." Walk to the window. "I am assigning you to complete the trial alone. If you succeed, you continue at the academy. If you fail—" "I understand, sir." "Do you?" Turn back to him. 7 has predators, real predators. Cadets have died there even with full teams and support. You will have standard rations and basic equipment, nothing more." Nodded. "When do I leave?" "Tomorrow at dawn." Studied him for a long moment. "Why are you here, cadet? Humans could stay on Earth. Why reach for the stars when the galaxy fears you?" Thought about his home, the crowded cities, the polluted skies, the endless struggle just to survive another day. He thought about looking up at the night sky and seeing possibilities instead of limits. "Because we belong here too," he said, "and I'm going to prove it." The next morning, boarded the shuttle alone. Through the window, he saw other cadets watching him leave. Some looked relieved, others looked curious. A few looked almost sorry. As the shuttle lifted off towards 7, closed his eyes and thought of home. He thought of the mountains where his grandfather had taught him to track and hunt. He thought of the survival training every human child endured. He thought of the storms, the earthquakes, the 1,000 ways Earth tried to kill its inhabitants. And he smiled. They had no idea what a human could survive. The shuttle descended through 7's atmosphere, shaking as it hit turbulence. Watched through the viewport as forests and mountains came into view. The moon was considered dangerous by galactic standards, home to several apex predators and harsh weather patterns. 2, it looked like a peaceful camping trip. The shuttle landed in a clearing, and the pilot, a nervous creature with 6 tentacles, barely waited for to grab his gear before taking off again. The roar of engines faded, leaving only the sound of wind through strange trees and distant animal calls. Stood in the clearing and breathed deep. The air was clean, rich with oxygen. The gravity was slightly less than Earth's. He could work with this. His gear was basic: a knife, a water purifier, a week's worth of ration packs, a sleeping bag, and a communicator for emergency check-ins. No weapon beyond the knife. No shelter beyond what he could build. The mission objectives were simple: survive 7 days, reach 3 checkpoint markers spread across the moon's surface, and document the local ecosystem. Most teams took the full week and still struggled. Opened his data pad and checked the map. The first checkpoint was 15 kilometers north, through dense forest. He oriented himself by the sun's position and started walking. The forest was beautiful, Trees with purple leaves stretched toward the sky, and small creatures with crystalline wings flitted between branches. Everything was alien, yet familiar. Life finding a way, no matter what world. He found a stream within the first hour. The water ran clear over smooth stones. He filled his canteen and activated the purifier, though his instincts told him the water was probably safe. Earth had taught him never to assume. As he walked, noticed tracks in the soft ground. Three-toed prints, large, probably from one of the herbivores mentioned in the briefing. He followed them for a while, learning their patterns. The creatures traveled in groups, stayed near water, avoided rocky terrain. By afternoon, he'd reached the first checkpoint, a beacon on a hilltop overlooking the forest. He pressed his ID chip against it, logging his arrival, 18 hours ahead of schedule. He decided to make camp there. The hilltop gave him a clear view of the surrounding area and a defensive position if needed. Using his knife and some fallen branches, he built a simple lean-to shelter. The knots came automatically, taught by his grandfather during summers in the mountains. All predators think the same way, his grandfather had said. They look for easy prey, make yourself difficult, and they look elsewhere. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and green, started a small fire. He didn't need it for warmth. The temperature was comfortable, but fire was a psychological barrier for most predators. His communicator buzzed. "Cadet, this is Instructor. Report your status." "Safe at Checkpoint 1, ma'am. Arrived at 1400 hours." There was a pause. "Checkpoint 1 already? It's only been. How did you move that fast?" "I walked, ma'am." "The terrain should have slowed you down. Did you encounter any difficulties?" "No, ma'am. The forest is fairly easy to navigate." Another pause. "Be careful, Cadet. Seven's predators hunt at night. We're tracking your vital signs, but help is hours away if you need it." "Understood, ma'am. I'll be fine." "I hope so. The other cadets are watching your progress, so is the commandant. Out." Ate a ration pack and banked his fire. Then he sat with his back against a tree and watched the forest. His eyes adjusted to the darkness quickly, better than most alien species, he'd learned. Humans evolved as pursuit predators, able to track prey day and night. Around midnight he heard it, a low growl from the tree line. Didn't move. He controlled his breathing, keeping it slow and steady. Fear was a scent predators could detect. A shape emerged from the shadows. The stalker was exactly as described in the briefing: 4 legs, armored scales, a mouth full of sharp teeth. It stood about as tall as a lion, maybe 3 meters long. Its eyes glowed yellow in the firelight. The creature circled the clearing, staying just beyond the fire's reach. It was testing him, trying to decide if he was prey or threat. Stood up slowly. He didn't run, didn't shout, didn't show his teeth. He simply stood and met the creature's eyes. For a long moment, human and predator stared at each other. Then something strange happened. The stalker's ears flattened. Its tail lowered. It made a confused huffing sound and took a step back. Took a step forward. The stalker retreated another step, then another. Its body language screamed confusion. This wasn't how prey behaved. Prey ran. Prey showed fear. This creature stood its ground with a calmness that spoke of something higher on the food chain. The stalker turned and disappeared into the forest. Sat back down and added wood to his fire. He'd seen the same behavior back on Earth with wolves and bears. Predators had instincts, pattern recognition. They knew when something didn't fit the normal categories of prey. On Earth, had learned to project an aura of being more trouble than he was worth. The rest of the night passed quietly. At dawn, he set out for Checkpoint 2. The second day brought rain, heavy and cold. Walked through it without complaint. He trained in monsoons in Korea that made this seem gentle. The rain actually helped. It brought out small creatures that he could observe and document. He found tracks again, different this time. Larger. Probably a titan, one of the massive herbivores. The tracks led to a valley where he found a herd of them grazing. They were beautiful creatures, standing 5 meters tall with thick hides and horned heads. Took photos for his report and gave them a wide berth. Herbivores were often more dangerous than predators. They had less reason to run. Checkpoint 2 was in a cave system. Explored carefully, marking his path. The caves were dry and showed signs of previous use by various animals. He found ancient claw marks on the walls and bones from past kills. That night he stayed in the caves. The stone held heat from the day, making it warmer than camping outside. He ate another ration pack and thought about the mission. He was 3 days ahead of schedule. He could reach Checkpoint 3 tomorrow and spend the remaining time exploring, gathering additional data. Or he could take his time, make the instructors think it was harder than it was. No, that felt like lying. He would do his best and let the results speak for themselves. On the 3rd day, started toward Checkpoint 3. The terrain grew rockier, requiring some climbing. In Earth's gravity, it would have been challenging. Here, it was almost fun. He reached the final checkpoint before noon, a plateau overlooking the entire region. The view was spectacular. He could see the forest, the valleys, the distant mountains. His communicator buzzed again. "Cadet, report." "Checkpoint 3 reached, ma'am. All objectives complete." Silence, then all objectives in 3 days. "Yes, ma'am. I have 42 documented species, water source locations, and terrain analysis ready to submit." "Stand by." The line went quiet for several minutes. When returned, her voice was different. "The shuttle will extract you tomorrow morning at the same landing zone. Return there before dawn." "I still have 4 days of supplies, ma'am. I could continue the survey." "Negative, Cadet. You've done enough, more than enough. Return to base." That night made camp on the plateau. He watched the stars come out, constellations he'd never seen from Earth. Somewhere up there was home. Somewhere was his family, probably watching the sky and wondering if he'd made it. A stalker appeared at the edge of his camp. Not the same one. This one was larger, with scars on its hide. It watched him for a moment, then sat down like a dog, just observing. Tossed it a piece of his ration pack. The stalker sniffed it, ate it, and settled down to sleep 20 meters away. In the morning, the stalker was gone, packed his gear and hiked back to the landing zone. The shuttle arrived exactly on time. The pilot stared at him as he boarded. You're actually alive." "Did you expect otherwise?" asked. "3 teams have died on 7 in the last decade, and you went alone." The pilot shook his head. "What are you?" Smiled and looked out the viewport as they lifted off. "Just a human." When returned to Academy, everything had changed, and nothing had changed. The cadets still avoided him in the corridors. The instructors still watched him with wary eyes. But now there was something else in those stares, not just fear but confusion. Respect, maybe, or at least uncertainty. Word of his survival trial had spread through the Academy like fire. 3 days instead of 7. Solo instead of team. No injuries, no emergency calls, complete documentation of the ecosystem. The combat instructors showed his performance data to their classes as an example of efficiency. Tried not to think about it. He attended classes, completed assignments, and kept to himself. What else could he do? On his 4th day back, found him in the library. She dropped into the seat across from him, ignoring the other cadets who immediately moved to tables farther away. "They're talking about you," she said quietly. "I know." "No, I mean really talking. The instructors held a meeting. Some want to change the training protocols because of you, others want to expel you." She leaned forward. "You're scaring them." "I'm not trying to." "I know, that's what makes it worse." Glanced around. "They don't understand. They think Earth is like their worlds, just with higher gravity. They don't know about the storms, the diseases, the predators. They don't know what it takes just to survive childhood there." Closed his book. "How are you doing?" "We're okay. They keep us in the background, safe positions, but you're in combat training, front and center." She paused. "Are you scared?" "Every day," he admitted, "but not of the training." Before could respond, an announcement echoed through the library. "Cadet, report to the combat training wing immediately." Squeezed his hand. "Be careful." The combat training wing was a massive dome where cadets practiced hand-to-hand fighting, weapons skills, and tactical scenarios. Entered to find training director waiting, a massive creature with 4 arms and thick purple skin. Cadet rumbled, "You've been assigned to combat trials, unarmed, one-on-one matches against various species. This will help us understand your capabilities." "Yes, sir." "And help the other cadets overcome their fears," added quietly. "You cannot build a career alone. You need teammates who trust you." The first opponent was a cadet named, from a world with double Earth's gravity. Was short but built like a tank, with muscles like steel cables. They faced each other on the training mat. Other cadets gathered to watch, keeping a safe distance. The match began, charged forward with surprising speed, using the low gravity to his advantage, swung with massive fists, dodged, not fighting back, just avoiding. "Fight me," shouted. "I am," replied, staying just out of reach. After 5 minutes, was exhausted, had barely broken a sweat. He could have ended the match at any time, a strike to the nerve cluster, a joint lock, a dozen techniques. But he waited until stopped on his own, hands on knees, breathing hard. "Match 2 announced, superior endurance and evasion." The second opponent was faster, with 6 limbs and a tail. Same result. Didn't hurt anyone. He simply outlasted them, showing control that seemed to confuse more than comfort. The third match was different. Stepped onto the mat. He was tall and lean, covered in dark scales, with eyes like a hawk. His species came from a predator lineage, hunters who could track prey across continents. "Finally," said, cracking his knuckles, "a real challenge. I've been waiting to face a." Bowed respectfully, "I'll do my best." "Your best won't be enough." Dropped into a combat stance that spoke of years of training. The match began fast and brutal, moved like liquid, striking from multiple angles, blocked but was good, really good, better than any opponent had faced at the academy. They traded blows for 2 minutes straight, then saw an opening and took it, a sweep that put on his back. But recovered instantly, using his tail for balance. He lunged at, claws extended. And froze. Mid-strike's entire body locked up. His eyes went wide, his pupils dilated to pinpoints. A strange sound came from his throat, something between a whimper and a hiss. Then he dropped to the ground and rolled onto his back, exposing his throat. "I yield," said, his voice shaking. "I yield, I yield." Silence fell over the training dome, even looked confused. Stepped back, hands raised. "Are you okay?" Scrambled away from him, still on his back, still showing his throat. I can't, you're." He couldn't finish the sentence. Stopped the match and called for the medical team, but they found nothing wrong with physically. Mentally, however, he was terrified in a way that made no sense. An hour later, sat in an observation room while the Academy's doctor explained what had happened. "Species has an instinctive threat assessment system," doctor said, displaying biological scans on a screen. "When they encounter another predator, their brain automatically calculates whether to fight or flee. It's subconscious, hardwired into their evolution." "So he decided to flee?" asked. "No, worse." Doctor pulled up more data. "His system identified you as something above a predator, an apex predator, the kind of creature his species evolved to avoid at all costs." Commandant, who had been listening from the corner, stepped forward. "Explain how that's possible. Is half size." "It's not about size. It's about behavior, body language, pheromones." Doctor looked at with a mix of fascination and fear. "Humans evolved on a world where they were both predator and prey. They develop the ability to project calmness in danger, to assess threats instantly, to never show fear. To a species like those traits register as apex predator markers. "So you're saying my biology is making them afraid?" asked quietly. "Not your biology, your confidence, your lack of fear response. The way you move, breathe, react." Doctor pulled up footage from the match. "Watch here," lunged at you. A normal prey species would flinch even just a little. You didn't. Your heart rate didn't spike. Your breathing stayed steady. To instincts, that meant you weren't worried about him at all. "Because I wasn't," said. "I knew I could handle it." Exactly. And that certainty, that absolute confidence, it triggered his deepest survival instincts. Doctor sat back. In nature, creatures only show that level of calm when they know they're the most dangerous thing around. Was quiet for a long moment. "This is a problem if other species react this way." "Not all will," Doctor interrupted. "Only predator species with that particular evolutionary path, but it raises questions about unit cohesion." The video of the incident spread through the academy within hours. Tried to ignore the stares, the whispers, and found him in his room that evening. "They're calling you the Apex Cadet," said, not quite smiling. "Some of them are taking bets on whether you could fight a stalker and win." "I wouldn't fight one," replied. "There's no point. Fighting should be last resort." "Try telling them that," said. "Half the academy thinks you're a ticking time bomb. The other half thinks you're the most dangerous cadet in history." Sat on his bed, still alone in his room since left. "I just want to serve, to prove humans can work with other species. But how can I do that if everyone's afraid of me?" "You keep going," said firmly. "You show them that dangerous and violent are not the same thing. You've had chances to hurt people and you haven't. That matters." A message came through on's communicator. It was from, "I owe you an apology. My body reacted before my mind could think. You showed restraint when you could have finished the match violently. That took honor. I would like to buy you a meal and talk if you're willing." Stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "I'd like that." Maybe there was hope after all. The final year evaluation came faster than expected. 3 years had passed since his arrival at Academy. 3 years of proving himself day after day, of building slow trust with cadets who had feared him. Had become an unlikely friend. So had a navigator named, a small being with multiple eyes and a talent for reading star charts. Even his old roommate eventually apologized and sometimes joined their study sessions. But now came the ultimate test, the deep space expedition. "Mixed species teams," Commandant announced to the assembled graduating class. "You will explore an uncharted planet, assess its resources, and complete your mission objectives within 2 weeks. This will determine your final ranking and first assignments." The cadets were divided into teams of 6. Watched as groups formed naturally, friends choosing friends, species clustering with similar biology. His name appeared on the screen last, Team 7. With him the Academy had finally allowed the 3 humans to work together. The other 3 team members were the navigator, a geologist named with thick armor plating, and a communications specialist called who could interface with technology directly through her neural implants. They had drawn what the other teams called, the short straw being assigned with Their target planet was designated Echo 9, a world at the edge of explored space. The briefing data was minimal, Earth-like atmosphere, gravity at 1.4 times standard, diverse ecosystem, no signs of intelligent life. The journey took 4 days. During that time, tried to ease the tension in his team. "I know this isn't what you wanted," he said to and on the second day. "But we'll work together. I'm not going to put anyone at risk." Who moved slowly in the ship's standard gravity looked at him carefully. "I've heard stories about you. The 7 trial, the incident, the 100 other times you've done the impossible. I just did what I was trained to do." "That's what worries us," said quietly. Your normal is our extreme. Spoke up. Then maybe you'll learn something. All of you are brilliant at what you do, can navigate better than any computer, can read geological formations like a book, can hack systems I can't even understand. And we, she gestured at the three humans, we're good at not dying. Together, we'll be fine. Nodded. Besides, the planet's gravity is going to be rough on you all. Let us handle the heavy work. You handle the smart work. When they entered Echo 9's orbit, whistled, a sound of appreciation. Beautiful planet, 3 major continents, healthy oceans, stable weather patterns. Gravity reading, asked. 1.4 Earth Standard, confirmed. For us that will be difficult. Difficult was an understatement. When they landed, could barely stand under the increased weight. Delicate frames struggled with each step. Even, who was used to low gravity, moved like everything hurt. The 3 humans stepped off the ship normally. This is insane, muttered, watching lift their equipment without straining. You're not even tired. Earth's gravity is 1.2, explained. This is only a bit heavier than home. You get used to it. They set up base camp near the landing site. The planet was gorgeous. Rolling hills covered in plant life that ranged from deep red to bright orange. The sky was a purple-blue, and twin moons hung on the horizon. Their mission: map the region, collect resource samples, document any life forms, and reach 3 survey points across 500 kilometers. For the first 2 days, progress was slow, and struggled with the gravity, developed joint pain. The 3 humans ended up carrying most of the equipment, with and rotating scout positions while handled the heaviest loads. On the 3rd day, they encountered the wildlife. A herd of massive creatures grazed in a valley. Each one was the size of an elephant, with 6 legs and armored plates across their backs. There were at least 30 of them, moving slowly through the vegetation. Herbivores, observed through her scope, probably peaceful and less provoked. We need to cross that valley to reach Survey Point 2, said, checking the navigation data. Then we go around, suggested. But as they planned their route, the herd suddenly started moving, not grazing anymore, running. The ground shook with their footfalls. Stampede, shouted, we need to. Everyone behind me, said calmly. He stepped forward, putting himself between the team and the approaching herd. We should run, cried. They're faster. Running will trigger their chase instinct. He stood perfectly still, watching the herd approach. 30 massive creatures, each one capable of crushing them flat. At the last moment, raised his arms and shouted, a deep, commanding sound that echoed across the valley. The lead creature swerved. The others followed, splitting around the team like water around a stone. In seconds, the herd had passed, leaving them standing in a cloud of dust but completely unharmed. Was shaking. How did you know that would work? I didn't for sure, admitted. But Earth has herding animals. They respond to confidence. If you run, you're prey. If you stand your ground, you're an obstacle. You gambled with our lives, said, but there was no anger in his voice, just amazement. That night volunteered for the first watch, then the second, and the third. Approached him during the 4th watch cycle. Don't you need sleep? I slept during 2nd watch, said. 4 hours, that's enough. Enough, we need at least 12 hours. Different biology, he smiled. On Earth, predators hunt day and night. We evolved to function on less sleep. Your planet is terrifying. It's home. On the 5th day, disaster struck. They were crossing a rocky canyon when slipped. The navigator tumbled down a slope, coming to rest 20 meters below with a cry of pain. Rappelled down immediately. His leg was broken, the bone visible through the skin. In the heavy gravity, moving would be agony. I can't continue, said through tears. Leave me here, complete the mission. Not happening. Fashioned a splint from their supplies and tied carefully to his back. Then he started climbing. 15 kilometers to the extraction point. weighed almost 60 kilograms plus equipment. In 1.4 gravity, that was close to 90 kilograms on its back. He walked without stopping, offered to switch off but shook his head. "Save your strength for scouting, I can handle this." And he did. For 6 hours he carried across rough terrain, up hills, through streams. His team watched in silence, understanding for the first time what really meant. It didn't mean violent, it meant enduring. On the 7th day they reached Survey Point 3. Ahead of them was the final challenge, an ancient structure half buried in the hillside, covered in alien writing. Fascinating, breathed. This could change everything we know about this sector. But as they approached, something moved in the shadows of the structure. A creature emerged. It was massive, 9 meters tall, with armor plates like a tank and claws that could tear through steel. Its eyes glowed red, and a deep growl rumbled from its chest. The planet's apex predator. Everyone froze. His hand moved toward her emergency beacon. "Don't move," whispered. He gently lowered to the ground. "Stay here, all of you." "No," hissed, "we should." But he was already walking forward, alone, unarmed. The creature turned its massive head toward him. It could kill him with a single swipe. Everyone knew it. Stopped 10 meters away and stood perfectly still. He didn't make himself bigger, didn't shout or threaten. He simply stood and breathed, maintaining eye contact. The creature took a step forward, then another. It lowered its head, sniffing the air. Didn't flinch. His heart rate stayed steady. His breathing remained calm. The creature circled him once, twice, looking for signs of fear, of weakness, of prey behavior. It found none. Finally, confused by this small being that showed no fear, the creature made a decision. It turned and walked away, disappearing into the structure's depths. Returned to his team. No one spoke for a full minute. "How?" finally whispered. "How are you still alive?" Looked at the ancient structure, then back at his team. "Because on Earth, standing your ground is sometimes the only choice you have. We learned that lesson over millions of years." They completed the mission, documented the structure, collected samples, and made it back to the extraction point with all team members alive. On the shuttle ride back to the academy, legs splinted and medicated, spoke quietly too. "I was wrong about you, about all humans. You're not dangerous because you want to hurt people. You're dangerous because nothing can hurt you." Shook his head. "Everything can hurt us. We just learn to keep going anyway." Graduation day arrived on Prime with perfect weather. The sky was clear, the gardens in full bloom, and thousands of beings from across the galaxy gathered to watch their children receive their commissions in the Galactic Defense Fleet. Stood in formation with his class, wearing the dark blue uniform of a graduating cadet. On his left stood, on his right, behind them, and the team that had learned to trust despite their fears. Stood 3 rows back, tall and proud. He caught his eye and nodded once, respect between former opponents. Commandant approached the podium, his 4 eyes scanning the assembled graduates. He looked older than he had 4 years ago, perhaps wiser. "Today, we celebrate not just your achievements but your growth," began. 4 years ago, this academy faced an unprecedented situation. We admitted our first cadet from a class 12. Every eye in the gathering turned too. He kept his gaze forward, standing at attention. "I will be honest with you all," continued. "I did not want to accept Cadet. I feared what he represented. I believed that beings from high-gravity, high-danger worlds would disrupt the harmony we had built. I was wrong." A murmur went through the crowd. Cadet's final evaluation scores are the highest in Academy history. His survival record is perfect. His leadership assessments show exceptional judgment under pressure. But more importantly, paused, he taught us something we had forgotten. Strength is not the same as violence. Capability is not the same as cruelty. And those who have survived the worst conditions are often the most careful about preserving life. descended from the podium and walked directly to. The entire gathering held its breath. "Cadet, I owe you an apology. I judged you by your origin rather than your character. I assumed danger where there was only determination. For that, I am sorry." Met the commandant's eyes. "No apology needed, sir. You were protecting your cadets. That's what leaders do." Placed one hand on shoulder, a gesture of respect in his species. "You could have failed, given up, or become bitter. Instead, you proved yourself every single day. You are an honor to this academy." The ceremony continued. Names were called. Commissions were awarded. Watched as received honors in navigation, as was recognized for geological research, as technological innovations earned special mention. When his own name was called, walked to the stage, presented him with his commission chip and whispered, "We have multiple fleet assignments requesting you specifically. Command positions, special operations. You can choose your path." Accepted the chip, feeling its weight. This small piece of technology represented everything he'd worked for, proof that humanity belonged among the stars. But as he looked out at the graduating class, at the younger cadets watching from the sides, at the fear and wonder still present in many eyes, he realized something. "Sir," he said quietly, "I'd like to request a different assignment." Tilted his head. "What did you have in mind?" After the ceremony, found his team celebrating in the gardens. His leg had healed completely, though he still walked with a slight limp. Had painted his armor plates with his family colors. His neural implants glowed softly as she shared memories of their missions directly with her relatives halfway across the galaxy. "So," asked, raising a glass of something that bubbled purple, "where are they sending you? Command track, special forces?" Neither replied. Lowered her glass. "What do you mean?" "I requested assignment as an instructor, here, at the academy." Silence fell over the group. "You're staying?" asked, "but you could have any posting in the fleet." "I know, but there are more humans coming, and more species from difficult worlds." Looked back at the academy buildings. "They'll face the same fears, the same prejudice. Someone needs to be here who understands. Plus," he added with a small smile, "someone needs to teach the new cadets that aren't monsters. We're just people who refuse to give up." Approached the group, moving with the easy confidence he'd regained over the years. "I heard your decision. I think it's wise. The galaxy needs more instructors like you." "Like me." Patient, determined, someone who proves through actions rather than words, extended his hand, a human gesture he'd learned. "I requested assignment to the Exploration Corps, Deep Space Reconnaissance, is coming with me." Nodded enthusiastically. Someone needs to keep him from getting lost. Rumbled with laughter. "I'm assigned to the Geological Survey, boring but safe. Though after Echo 9 I've learned to appreciate boring." Implants pulsed. "Communications division for me. I'll be helping develop new translation systems. Maybe one day we'll understand each other perfectly." They talked late into the night, sharing memories and making promises to stay in touch. As the twin moons rose over Prime, the group dispersed one by one until only and remained with. "We're being assigned to different ships," said. "Medical frigate for me, research vessel for." "Good assignments," said. "Are you sure about staying?" asked. "You could do so much more out there." Thought about his first day at the academy. The fear in his eyes, the isolation, the constant pressure to prove himself. Then he thought about his last day on Echo 9 when his team stood together, trusting each other despite their differences. "This is where I can do the most good," he said. "Out there, I'd be one officer among thousands. Here, I can change how the next generation sees humans, sees all." A week later, stood in front of his first class as instructor. 200 new cadets stared at him, their eyes wide with recognition and fear. Among them were 3 new humans, the second, third, and fourth to attend the academy. They sat together, looking as isolated as had been. He also noticed cadets from other high-gravity worlds, recently admitted after the Academy changed its policies. They too sat apart, marked by their origin. Began his first lecture with a simple statement. "My name is Instructor. I am from Earth, a Class 12. I am the first human to graduate from this academy." He paused, letting that sink in. "Some of you are afraid of me. That's understandable. Some of you are curious. That's good. Some of you wonder if you can trust me. That's wise." He walked along the front of the classroom, meeting eyes without challenging. "Let me tell you what it means to walk alone. It doesn't mean you're dangerous. It means you're prepared. It doesn't mean you enjoy fighting. It means you know how to survive. It doesn't mean you have no fear. It means you've learned to face it." One of the new human cadets raised a tentative hand. "Sir, how did you get them to accept you?" Smiled. "I didn't, not at first. I showed them who I was through actions, not words. I helped instead of hurt. I endured instead of complained. I stood my ground when necessary and stepped aside when wise." He addressed the entire class now. "All of you come from different worlds, different biologies, different cultures. Some of you evolved as predators, some as prey, some as neither. It doesn't matter. What matters is this. In the Galactic Defense Fleet, you are one crew, one mission, one family. You will face dangers together that don't care about your species. And you will learn that the cadet from a peaceful garden world can be just as brave as the one from that the smallest being can have the strongest will. That fear is not weakness, giving up is." The classroom was silent. Even the alien cadets who had shifted away from the seemed to be listening with new attention. "This semester, we will train together. You will learn from each other. The cadets from low-gravity worlds will teach agility and grace. The heavy will share endurance techniques. The predator species will teach tracking. The prey species will teach awareness." Stopped at the center of the room. "And I will teach you the most important lesson I learned. True strength is not about how much you can destroy. It's about how much you can protect." Over the following months, watched his class transform. He paired high-gravity cadets with low-gravity ones for training exercises. He put predator species and prey species on the same teams. He made them rely on each other's strengths. There were conflicts, there were fears, but slowly bonds formed. One day, Doctor visited his classroom. Watched a training session where a human cadet was teaching a fragile how to fall safely in high gravity, while the taught the human about sensing vibrations in the ground. "You've done something remarkable," Doctor said. "In my research, I've been developing a theory. I call it the advantage." "What's that?" "Species from harsh environments don't just develop physical advantages. They develop psychological ones, adaptability, problem-solving under pressure, the ability to assess threats accurately and respond proportionally." She pulled up her data pad. "Your teaching methods, combining different species' strengths, it's creating the most effective training outcomes we've ever measured." "It's not my method," said. "It's just common sense. On Earth, we learned that diversity makes you stronger. Different perspectives solve different problems." "Perhaps that's the real advantage," Doctor mused. "The wisdom that comes from surviving together." At the end of his first year as an instructor, received a message from the Galactic Defense Council. His teaching programs were being adopted fleet-wide. Survival tactics were now part of the standard curriculum. Mixed species training teams were becoming mandatory. But the message he treasured most came transmitted from deep space. "We found an incredible binary star system today. Wanted to name it after you. I told him you'd prefer we name it after the team. So we're calling it Echo 7 after our survey designation. Because that's where we learned that walking alone is sometimes necessary, but walking together is always better. Thank you for teaching us that." 5 years after his graduation, stood on the landing platform, watching a new class arrive. Among them was a cadet from a class 14, even harsher than Earth. The cadet looked terrified and isolated, just as had been. Walked over and extended his hand. "Welcome to Academy. I'm instructor. Let me help you with your bags." The cadet stared at him in surprise. You're human, you understand." "I understand," said, "and I'm going to make sure you're not alone. None of you are alone here, not anymore." As they walked toward the academy together, looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, humanity's ships traveled the stars. Somewhere, his former students were exploring new worlds, protecting the innocent, building bridges between species. And here at the academy, he was planting the seeds for the next generation. He had walked alone once, but he'd made sure no one else would have to. That was the real victory.